Dr. Hussein Natsheh, welcome to the stage.
Is it working? Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Good morning. Yes, still 5 minutes till the afternoon. Very happy to be here. Thank you, Tambi, Propeller. Thank you for everyone who's attending and spending time to listen to my talk. Yet another talk about Gen AI. So I hope you get good knowledge right by now about the topic. Listening to the distinguished speakers, great talks prior to mine, I was very happy that they covered a lot of knowledge and background in large language models, RAGs, limitations. So I tuned even my slides a little bit to give you maybe something different, or at least from a different perspective. So my talk today, I also changed a little bit the title of the talk to be more relevant. I actually used Gen AI to enhance it yesterday. So it would be about deploying industrial-grade large language model for private data applications. So this is all about product innovation, technical product management. I will try to cover this area. Still, the talk is relevant for engineers, data scientists, large language model scientists, even DevOps and architects. But mainly, if you are in the domain of product innovation within the AI era, this would be maybe relevant to you. A subtitle, as you can see here, is how to minimize hallucination, which is something we heard about yesterday from distinguished speakers, enhancing confidence on the response, and put it actually in what we call this key term, industrial grade. Having something that can go into an industrial setup, for example, like banks or big energy companies. I will give some examples from my experience recently on big energy companies like Aramco, ADNOC, BP. It's very critical for them, the term industrial grade. And I think it's now important and relevant for most of you maybe who are in the domain of bringing AI to an actual applications. For these companies, data is important because it's private. They cannot put it on the cloud. Unfortunately, open access, or not open access, cloud-hosted services and large language models like from OpenAI and others, they don't see this data. So it will be my talk will be around that, how we identify that problem, and how we innovate a solution to tackle this problem. All right, with that, I will give maybe a bit background about this. It's been around 20 years now that I'm trying since I got to know about the field of AI. In my undergrad, in a different university, Balqa, I was studying engineering, computer engineering. The only topic that I liked, and I decided that would be my career, is AI and neural networks and things. So I decided to make a master's degree. I chose JUST, which is, in my opinion, was the best university there to do a master thesis. I want to do applied research in AI. It was hard even to find a professor that can host that topic at that time, but luckily I had the chance. And since it was applied, and I joined organizations in Jordan that helped me a lot to understand about business, how to innovate, how to commercialize. I decided that, what I did actually as an applied research has a good potential to commercialize it into a product and into a company, a startup. So I started a company just after. It was as simple as commercializing what I did in that research. It wasn't fancy at that time, AI, data mining, it wasn't called data science, it was called data mining mainly. But I managed to secure some regional and international accounts. It was a good start for me. However, I realized that the knowledge I have in AI is very limited. It's just a master thesis. It's not that, the potential is much higher. So after 5 years at this startup called Seattle, I got the chance to actually get a scholarship to Europe to do even further applied research and get up to date with the field. It was a data mining and knowledge management European masters, where they give you a chance to actually apply whatever you study in a company or organizations. And I was very lucky to work with a big organizations in Europe called CERN. It's for high energy physics. They have a lot of big data and machine learning applications, there I learned a lot from people who invented libraries in machine learning like scikit-learn and give me in the right track. So yeah, I achieved what I was looking for. And I was working on that in an applied research for, and still an open source. I contributed to it. It's called InspireHub. It's a digital library for high energy physics. It was all about information retrieval, how you can do semantic retrieval, which is very close today of what we do with ChatGPT. It's like how you retrieve information by meaning or by semantics. So it was very relevant. It was very unique. That's got an attention of a professor in France. He said, I want to do a PhD on this topic because we have a big project, governmental project in France about very similar problem. I want to retrieve information from millions of scientific papers. So let's do a PhD together on that, and which is something I got the chance to do within a National Research Center in Europe. While doing that as a PhD, I got a call from my old friend, a co-founder of Mawdu', and he wanted to do, again, something similar, but yet in Arabic. So I continued pushing in this, I would say, small career, how to commercialize. Because I saw academia, I saw many people pushing hard in innovating things. I was part of that myself as part of the learning curve. But there were little people at that period, at least, who trying to actually commercialize, innovate products or solutions that can actually be useful in industrial scale, on application, on companies, that helps people's life every day, other than what you see from Google and other big companies, because they are the one actually using AI for 2-3 decades now. But there are too much things, and advancement in technology is untapped to be commercialized. So I got the privilege to contribute to big projects like Selma. It was the first Arabic-speaking conversational AI back to 2018-19. Also co-founded a company out of the same technology called Qalam, which is a writing assistant, very similar to Grammarly. And recently, like 3-4 years ago, I joined an international company which is based in California called Beyond Limits. Again, the idea of Beyond Limits was very close to my heart. It's all about commercializing AI research. So the idea about the company is very similar to what I was trying to do in the back days of my little startup, Seattle. They have a great technology developed for NASA as an AI technology at Caltech. And they decided as a mission to commercialize that technology and make a spin-off out of the university. So I liked the idea, and I joined them. I helped them to innovate several products. Again, that's why I'm saying commercialization, and it's more relevant for product management. Things related to computer vision, which is something called Beyond Vision. No-code machine learning operations, or MLOps, for chemical blending called Blend Optimizer. And that leads me to what the topic of my today's talk. Also a solution, in my opinion, was the solution or the product for an existing issues in the market, especially after the launch of ChatGPT, and everyone wants to apply this new technology, yet they have many challenges. So these challenges, we started from there, we identified them, and we decided how to provide a solution. Again, enterprise scale, you can deploy, efficient, deals with private data. And the solution, from our opinion, as a company, was Beyond Search. So today it would be about that journey that I want to share with you. Okay. I see a timer here. I spent maybe time there, but this is the agenda of today. Why this is important? I mean, why big companies cares about their private data? Why it's a big deal? And then how to solve it. Starting from this customer-centric approach, this is the problem, how we can provide a solution. I will give you a demo how we design these features matches the original client challenges and the desired features. And finally, with what's next, I heard a lot of observations and opinions from previous distinguished speakers about the future. So I had my own opinion as well I would want to share with you. And also it's related to what we are doing at Beyond Limits. Hopefully that will be helpful for most of you. And ending with a conclusion. So why? Private data, sometimes you have regulations, even by the government, the national regulation, that this data cannot be seen by anyone, even outside of the department, not even the country. And by law, it couldn't be even hosted outside the country. So this is like first resistance or first reaction or even first requirement by a set of our clients, because mostly of them were like from the energy sector. This is, oh no, we cannot use ChatGPT. And maybe you heard about like 2 years ago or a year and a half ago about someone from Samsung, developers used maybe Copilot, so Bassam, and that was a leakage of a trade secret code. And so they said, no, we cannot do that. However, we need it. We need to develop it in-house. And we'll come to that. Is it possible to? Yes, it's possible to redo things, but it's a big waste of money and time. So this is one of the why. The data is private. I cannot put my data, even my question, I cannot put it to the cloud. Second, in the bottom left is even using it, continuously using it, you are disclosing by question and interaction with this kind of technology, large language models, you are giving away some knowledge. This knowledge actually is an asset. You want to keep it. Some of these experts who are using the system provide very valuable feedback and insight to that model that you can make it smarter. So you want to also preserve that within your organizations and don't give it to competition. So that's another reason why actually this is relevant to think of how I can bring large language model to my private data application. Second, cost. You may see people start using heavily as developers OpenAI. They build and innovate solutions, very nice, but once it scales, the invoice of per API hits increases. So sometimes what is maybe relevant in an MVP environment, if you go to scale, it's actually not cost efficient anymore. So this is another reason why it's important maybe to host your own large language model, which doesn't need to be that big. And I will talk about this later. Finally, the trust. I mean, you need to have control over your own operations. If you want to rely on such technology, you want to see how it evolves, how you can make it better, how you can continuously fine-tune it, and to the discussion of RAG, retrieval augmented generation, how to make fact check from your own documents. So that's, in my opinion, why this is maybe relevant, why we need such a solution, because this is the main problem. So based on Gartner's research recently, they say 80 to 90% of enterprise data are actually unstructured. And this is maybe you even notice in my job title. I'm all about the unstructured data and Gen AI. And this is like you cannot monetize well. And I'll give you some examples. Some companies have decades of data in this format of data. It's like unstructured. So they cannot, like reports, images, sometimes scanned images. It's not useful. Again, it's very confidential. You cannot trust it if any model doesn't see this data. You cannot trust any specific answer. And there are many applications where you can build on top of this. So this is an example of unstructured data that I mean. So it could be reference manuals, enterprise content. So for example, this is Aramco is a client that we are working with. They have an ambitious project called Aramco MetaBrain. They announced last February at LEAP. They sit on more than 9 decades of private data, like manual things, communications. They have their own language. It's English, but it's an Aramco language. This are not seen by GPT 3.5 or GPT 4. So how we can capitalize on this? And there is a big problem how to deal with this data. Some of these like very old, scanned images, not even clear. There is a huge amount of communications over like, they still use Skype, by the way, Skype Business, for security reasons, again, because it cannot use the cloud. Recently, finally, they moved into Zoom. So, but they sit on a huge amount of data. The data is complex, it's unstructured. It's not easy to find. So this is a high-level information retrieval system starting from unstructured data to prepare the data first. We realize this is a gap in the market. No one like perfect this very important, in my opinion, stage, which is how to curate your data. I will talk about it later in the talk. Then how to use large language model in a deploy production environment as operations and workflows, and then put it to be consumed as, for example, conversational AI or other applications. So this is what we are dealing with. So we thought about it a lot, for example, at Beyond Limits, and say, okay, in our opinion, we need two main things. First, if you want to do this in-house, kind of, like you have control of your large language model so that you can do things like ChatGPT without talking to OpenAI, you need what we call large language model operations that you can have within your private network, which I will talk about next. And also for the same issues that mentioned yesterday about hallucination and others, you need this RAG system and guide rails, but the users of this are non-tech, so we need to have it no-code. So building a platform, building a solution it's not only building an AI model, it's actually building a platform, a solution that can be used and trusted, cost-efficient, respect the data privacy. So this is the two main items that I will try to share with you as our experience. So what's the difference between the two as a low-code versus no-code? I see it as the difference between automatic gearbox and manual. So who still drive manual cars? Good for you. This is the hardcore people. It's like so you need to have more control in your car. Actually, it's not you have more. This is the idea. So you have more control with like advanced thing. Let's say advanced. When you have this thing, but yet you need to deal with a different interface. So here we support kind of a command line interface. You still use it's not coding, but it's command line. It's not like graphical user interface, but you have advanced operations and how to control your own large language model. The other, which we call Beyond Search, tentatively, it's not yet announced. It's a no-code GUI. It's multi-tenancy, because also it's something else that we noticed from the market. They need to manage not only one set of users. They want to have multiple use cases or multiple companies. These giant companies have, as a group, they call it a group, and they have some separate like companies. I will talk about multi-tenancy importance in this domain as well. Okay, so this is at a high level what I will talk to you about. This is the first one, the manual gear. It might look a bit complex, but I will break it down into three main steps. Again, this is maybe relevant to what you heard in previous talks, so it makes me more comfortable to go a bit advanced on this. So they have this large language model operations, which is the core of the solution, and then there is semantic search engine, and then a question answering app. So starting from the top, so this workflow that you saw that we called large language model ops. In the top, you see this is what you can see available in the market, in the cloud. Things like Llama 3, Llama 2, Mistral. This spends months on thousands of GPUs. They collected, for example, Llama 15 trillion token from public access data in all the topics. So there's a huge number of GPUs, data is public, and the model is now available. Some of them available commercially, some of them is just open source. So first observation, as a company, I'm not specialized, I'm not a Meta, I'm not a Google, I want to use this. It's not wise to start from that row. I should start to solve a problem from my private data here. But remember, this data is unstructured. Years of complex, technical, very business language. So the first components in this workflow or operations is data extraction, curation, and preparation. So this is actually, in my opinion, very important. And then how to fine-tune your own. I will talk more about it. Once you fine-tune something, or train, like supervised training, you heard it yesterday or even this morning, bring a data, like tell the model, okay, it's not just knowing how to predict the next token. I want to put it in a practice where give it an instruct and get an answer. For example, question, an answer. Summarize this, summarize it to me. So the model needs to have these few examples trained in your data so that it's become a custom. The good news is in fine-tuning such big models, you don't need thousands of GPUs. You need maybe 10, 50 maximum. In some cases, in optimized ones, like techniques like LoRa and QLoRa, maybe even 2 GPUs would be sufficient. So this is a good, one good gain about how to do cost efficient. Once you have a model out of this, and you heard it also yesterday, sometimes these models forget things because you are training them in a domain-specific things. So you need to keep track and evaluate what you did, what you messed up with this brain is not actually losing performance. That's why it's another important feature in these operations is to keep monitoring and benchmarking what you are trying to do in this kind of a studio. So this is what we call large language model operations. The issue is at enterprise level, you cannot do it code-wise. Otherwise, you want to change all of your back-end engineers and data scientists to a large language model scientist, which is, yeah, possible, but it's a lot of investment. And not all people like this field. It's kind of a complex field. So to do it as a company that it's not their main business to do AI. Their business sometimes in healthcare, in energy, in banking. So I wanted to know high level, even with the back-end experience or even non-tech, I can do all of that. So this is another feature that we thought that is important to bring this technology to such a problem. So that's the first part. And go deeper a little bit. It's very critical. This is a supply chain. Any error, it will propagate. So it's very important to perfect each, not perfect, like make it as perfect as possible, each step. Because again, we are talking about industrial grade application in private data. These decisions might control high value assets. It costs in some applications millions. So you need to avoid and minimize any error. So there is important things for using large language model in private data. One of them is important. People don't take a lot of care about it, or enough concern, which is the private or personal identifiable information, PII. So all of that come off the shelf. You just make sure how to identify them at scale. We are talking about gigabytes of textual data. And then if you have duplication of data, if you have a duplication, it reduces the evaluation on accuracy of your fine-tuned or supervised trained model. So all of these, if you do OCR, for example, when it comes to all documents that's only scanned, usually OCR suffers from things that you need to curate or correct, make spell checking, grammar mistakes for this, preserving the paragraph, the meaning. Yesterday they were talking about also the splits, how it's like concise, not using information. All of that come in this module. Again, command line, no code. This is more details about it, how to do extraction, post-processing, deduplication, PII removal or masking, and so on. This is, again, important. This is why companies try to be not trusting this technology, but this is solving that for them as one component. Fine-tuning, which is, again, less number of GPUs. And you don't need to be a scientist in large language model and keep up to date with all the techniques and best practices like parameter efficient fine-tuning, like LoRa, QLoRa. You have all of that already coded. In each release, in such platform. And you can find such platform also in the open source community. So there are some of them are like mature, some of them still developing. But what I want to share with you is the concept, the workflow. If you need to have the minimal of these, in my opinion, these steps, so that you can able to bring this to your company or to your client. Once you have a custom model, well, okay, you can, by the way, for fine-tuning, you need to do, sometimes you do what we call the completion fine-tuning, to just give it unlabeled data. Just bring all these like 90 years of data, for example, for Aramco. After you extract the text, clean it, curate it, just give it as you continue the learning of what happened, in, for example, at Meta or any available large language model. But there's another type of fine-tuning, which is instruct fine-tuning. You give it labeled data. That's why it's very important to have your data labeling or data annotation team or department or outsource that, so that this is to instruct exactly. Usually this is even with techniques like QLoRa. It's faster, easier, more efficient. You can do quantization, but you do what we call supervised learning fine-tuning. So to move a bit faster, once you have your custom model, you need to evaluate it and see, is it good for a certain task? Is it good in reasoning? Is it good in mathematical operation? Is it good in coding? Based on your data that you feed it in, either labeled data or just completion type of data. So again, there is a lot out there. You can use publicly applied metrics and benchmarks to see how good are you doing as trained or custom large language model. This is most things that's already supported in our platform. Again, you can find these on open source, but at least you know that this is important to keep benchmark and baseline of what you started from, so that you don't end up with less performing model. Okay. Now that was the part of training. We also have in this operation something called learning from user feedback. I'm sure the people who are in the field knows about this. And actually, this is what you can see if you use ChatGPT. In the beginning, you notice that it wasn't as good as of today, even 3.5. And that's thanks to the user feedback, either like annotators, settings in some countries, or the user themselves to provide like, dislike. So to make what we call model alignment, which is usually things like human feedback, reinforcement learning, these techniques, again, comes off the shelf. It's very important to do this model alignment. In many cases, this is your target. If you are doing a customer-centric application or solution, your model have to align with what's expectation. And this is what I talked about. This is by itself a confidential data from your subject matter experts inside your client or company. You don't want to expose that to the public. So you want to keep this internally within your private data environment. Another thing which is important, and my colleagues from the DevOps teams appreciate this because they build it with us, is how to run in a private cloud or even data centers. I mean, you have just a bunch of servers, you want to create clusters. Again, such companies, for example, energy giants, they have this policy not getting their data outside. You need to deal with this on-prem infrastructure. So to do that and scale across multiple machines within a cluster and multiple nodes, again, as a low-code command line, you need to run with this tool optionally if they cannot use things like Google or Azure or alike. So you can schedule jobs, you can scale, you can restart. So all of that, again, comes as a command line interface, which is event serving. So this is what we have called run. So by this, you almost cover all of the operations you need to solve the problem of hosting your own private data-sensitive large language model. Okay. The second component here is, which is what was explained yesterday by Qdrant and others in vector database and semantic retrieval, which is very important. If you have a large language model fine-tuned or trained on your data, and you split it, index it in a way in a vector storage or vector database, if you use, instead of using anything available, use the same fine-tuned model that understands and saw your data, you even achieve higher accuracy if you train it in a way that is good in what we call retrieval and re-ranking. So this comes in the no-code platform that I will show you very soon. So you index your data, and you use it for the last component here, which is what we call in-context learning, or maybe call it RAG, or prompt engineering. You give a context to the, as you saw yesterday, and a question with a context. The context here is the most relevant piece of information from your private data, so that you are reduce the hallucination, and you might have more confidence in any generated answer. You can even find the references. You can, any answer, I want to see what are the top references, and I will show you in a demo. So this is possible by what we call RAG, or even no-code RAG approach. So that covers everything. Just a little bit about how this is at scale, deployable in a production environment. It's not only the AI and even the AI ops. It's the solution. It's a big thing. For example, you heard yesterday from Qdrant about this vector space. We use technology of our source, Haystack, which is a good example, but you have other open source or even commercial vector storage engines. So this give us how we use it. We use AirPy to connect with multiple data sources, because companies, okay, they have their data, structured or unstructured, they have it in existing big engines, like SharePoint, maybe Google Drive, for other things. So this allows us to do things. We have our own fine-tuned GPT model or large language model called Beyond GPT. So we use this very high-level, easy structure. Also define user accessibility again. Something I forgot to mention. The data is private, but it's even private within the organization or the client side. So for example, managers cannot see things, or can see things that non-managers shouldn't see, or based on your department, based on your location, based on your, so to preserve that is very important. Sometimes some clients say this is the most important than the accuracy of even the large language model. So managing the accessibility of the files is again very important. Multi-tenancy is another important thing. I want to sometimes physically separate or logically separate the data, but the logic, the computation, could be shared. It's more efficient as an organization not to have a big setup per use case or per a sub-company. I can use this as a shared cluster. However, I can support multi-tenancy so that multiple personas or use cases can safely use in a very efficient way. So this is important not only for the end users. We thought about a persona which is a developer. So if I have developers in the company, or even I want to outsource, this platform is important for them as low code and no code to be able to develop your own self-hosted large language model. A quick demo about it, how we realize this as a product management has features. So this is an interface. It's something that you can, it's white labeled. You can put, I will show you how you can put your logo there. You can manage several indices. You can have it per tenant. Again, no code, very easily. And maybe you can find similar alternatives in the market as well, but just give you an idea how that works. So this is an admin access panel where you see on the left you can have a data management module. And under the data management, if you click there, you can list and create multiple indices. For example, I want to make an index for the legal department. I want to do one for HR. I want to do one for the scientist of high energy geophysics. So all of that, you can, as an admin, you can manage, and you can even control, add data, update if this is another request that we heard from the market. These may be reports or documents have versions. So I don't want this old version to be retrievable or to be used as a source of an answer today. I wanted to hide it. I want to update it. So all of this data management things comes to it. So you can have an option to make OCR, like optical character recognition, on things that has a scanned documents. It's not just searchable documents. You can do group actions, like, for example, give a tag, say these documents, by the way, is only accessible by managers. So how you can easily do that with no code? You can bring in these documents from your original source of data. Right now, in this pre-release model system, we only support these, but we are in the pipeline with Airbyte. We are adding more data integration points. And this is a sample of data we deal with. Just, you can see this is a technical report. It has information about geophysics here, and sometimes you have these equations and this two-column format to how to preserve the knowledge and the data after you convert it from unstructured to kind of structured or semi-structured is very important. Again, to control who can access what, you can say, okay, this document is only accessible by managers for certain locations, which is an important feature as well. Again, what we are trying to solve, how to gain trust by such clients to do this Gen AI technology with trust and bringing value without losing confidential data. You have some advanced settings per index or per use case where you can, again, no code, you can edit this prompt, which, as you heard yesterday, fine-tuning and drag, sometimes it's not enough. You need to tune or give more context to the model based on the use case. In this case, we say only use the provided data to generate an answer so that you have more confidence in the data. You can have, say, in this use case, I want to be very precise versus creative. I want to do personalized search, like these documents is only for managers in certain locations based on the user profile. So all of these features we thought about to make this happen as a solution. You can white label the solution. You can add the logo so that, for example, this is a quick demo we did yesterday for another big company called ADNOC, where you can host as a demo some upstream data, their website, and so on. As you can see, it took us to create this tenant a few minutes, and then once you upload the data, it's ready to go. Now you can talk or make a conversation with your own documents in a secured manner. You can even ask by voice or written. You can include multiple sources in the same question and ask the model to figure it out. This is an example of something critical, like very technical, and then very similar to ChatGPT, but guess what? I have ChatGPT inside. I can now use such a technology without being concerned about my data privacy. In the left side, you can see a set of references because they want to make sure this high-value asset decision they will take, sometimes in safety, say like caring about human safety or a big high-value machinery, I want to see the reference from my own documents. So if I base reference, I say, this is the top 5 paragraphs where I base my answer on. You can click and see exactly and have a trust on that answer. You can provide feedback. This is important for the model to understand when you are making what's called small talk versus another follow-up questions. So you can keep doing follow-up questions as you do with ChatGPT, but also you can do conversation like nature, like thank you or whatever. So this is in the back end is not easy. It's called like guardrails and how to understand the context. You can even use it as is. If you are happy with it as a developer or an admin, you can, okay, well, and you collect some feedback from the users, make model alignment, as we said, learning from user feedback. As an admin, if I created that, I'm happy with it. And then as a developer, I can easily create an API key from the system. I want to build my own app. Or connect this to my existing website or my existing product, or existing CRM. So you take this and you go, you have a full documentation how, in any language, how to do things like indexing, questioning, supporting any languages. So in the last 2 minutes, just to say, okay, what's next? Maybe this is important for looking forward. One thing that we are thinking of is, when maybe you read about it, agentic large language model, how these large language models can talk to each other, back and forth, iterate until they make, as you heard yesterday from Mehdi, kind of an autopilot or autonomous. So for example, this is a project we do with Aramco called Global Optimizer, where these agents talk to each other using large language models. And they have references, they have access to very sensitive data, so they cannot get outside. And you have access to this multiple databases, including a very big data lake. So such thing is important, and as a future and how we see it, going from traditional AI, recently now several companies are competent and using Gen AI and large language model for conversational AI. It's not enough. That's why, for example, at Beyond Limits, we use something called neurosymbolic reasoning or hybrid AI. It allows you to do such agentic large language model, including your experts' knowledge and knowledge that you find in procedures and manuals, until something we call deployable autonomy, which is something developed mainly for NASA. At the control room, they need to monitor, but sometimes you have a trust in the system, do it yourself. And then you dial it up, say, okay, I will take over. So just an autonomy way between co-pilot and autopilot is how we see it as a future. So as a conclusion, this technology is very fast. It might become faster. As you heard before in the previous talks, you need to be adaptive. But to do relevant commercialization out of these technologies is important. So try to do customer-centric kind of commercialization or innovation. It's becoming highly competitive, but the market is big. So don't worry, you always have a play you can adapt. A scalable and deployable enterprise-grade solution is not only AI. As you saw in the architecture, there's a big teamwork where you are building a software mainly. Maybe 80% is a software, less than 20% is actually the large language model or the AI. Stay informed, adapt, and this is the only way. Use the technology, don't be afraid of it. You hear that maybe several times, but I just to emphasize on this fact. Customer feedback is very important. Talking to customer is what leads you to a successful product or company. Don't try to do it yourself and build it and this time and then go to the customer, find this actually doesn't address the pain point of the client. With that, thank you very much, everyone. Okay, back to you, Tanvi.
Thank you, Dr. Hussein.